Art has always been part of my life. Even as a child in public school, I was often chosen to be the one to maybe do an art thing. I was asked to do a Viking mural. And I started off great, but I went on and on and on. The teacher was getting frustrated. So that's my style. I'm slow and methodical, and I do representational work. And that usually demands, intricate brushwork and stuff like that. So some people say, just get on with it, paint,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's your style, and that's how you enjoy your art.
Yeah. Now, I had an interesting part of my childhood is that I was very interested in the athletics as well. So I wound up sometimes leaving my violin lessons, running over to the playground where the rinks were. We didn't have indoor rinks in those days. And so I would get that violin part of me out of me and then back into the hockey, which I was a goaltender, and that continued right up till I got into senior A. And so did my art continue.
I'm just going to do a sound thing so I can hook up the different audio recordings and match them up so it goes well.
Okay.
You're about to have a show at the Callander Bay Museum, and what do you hope to represent there at that show?
Well, I've been doing shows of recent or contemporary art, like what done as I maybe spent a year working and then show it. And then I've done others where they were 10-year perspectives. And I would do work that I would bring together that I had done over that decade. This one is a little more involved. It's borders on a full retrospective. However, because of the size of the venue and that, I have to tailor it to a certain amount of work. But I'd like to represent a bit of my years right up to now. And that really gets me into my teen years, that I have one or two pieces to show. And then as I go into adulthood, I continued to paint with some hiatuses because I was working in medical field and I had courses to take, and that had to be looked after first. So my thing about my life is my family first, my job was second, and painting was third. However, painting is, as I mentioned in a show I gave a talk about, it was a tonic for my soul. It was a great relief after working to be able to have my art as a diversion.
And what did you do in the medical field?
I was in radiology, and I just loved the job. I loved being a technologist, but I eventually ascended to managerial positions, and that brought me to North Bay. There happened to be an opening here, and they knew about it in Pembroke because the girl that was leaving, the tech, she was marrying and moving to England, and her mother worked in the hospital in Pembroke. I found out about it. I knew North Bay. Not a lot, but I came here as a 16-year-old with a junior hockey team, and we played in the Memorial Gardens not long after it opened. And it was an interesting experience. Then we went on to Nipissing in Quebec and played over there.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
How far did you play hockey?
I went right up to junior A, tier 2, and then I went to senior A and played with the senior team for a few years.
Who's senior team?
It was the Pembroke Lumberkings.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
And what years would that be?
Well, we're looking at from 59 would have been my last year in junior. So we're looking at early 60s, and there were some wonderful teams from, North Bay was particularly of interest to me. There was DeMarco and a number of those players that I recall coming down as a kid and realizing how good they were, you know. I never did play against that senior North Bay team, but we were more connected with the lower Ottawa Valley.
Right. Well, that's cool. So when did you come to North Bay?
In 1966. Yeah, and never regretted it. I just took to the city. We're relatively close to Pembroke, which was my hometown, so to speak. I was born in Windsor, but the Ottawa Valley really is where I was raised.
Cowshed Valley, eh?
Yes, I've heard that term. Yeah.
Well, my dad's family is from Cobden.
Oh, I love Cobden too, yeah.
Lots of relatives that ran through Pembroke.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's great.
Eganville.
Yes.
Lake Dore.
Oh, good. That's all very familiar areas.
The Clarks were my mom's side. My dad's mom's side.
Hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that area.
Yeah. I thought I was going to take advantage of living here, and then during my holidays I would go and work in Pembroke area. But you know, I was so taken with what we have here. And then I got involved with teaching at Art Experience and that, and then I continued on after Art Experience setting up my own summer program. And very little did I do that area following that. However, one of the things that was a gap in my ambition was to do something connected with the Ottawa River, right from Lake Temiskaming, you know, and right down and to Pembroke and beyond. But it was an awesome thing to undertake, and I have so many interests that I want to do, so I have to curtail all these things. So I have no regrets, though. What I have done, I've been happy with.
Tell me about this painting right here.
Well, I love the north area and the rustic elements, and I felt that the outcrops, that's on Birches Road actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the pine trees and whatever, it always intrigued me. We're just so blessed with this type of stuff, you know. But it started out as a single piece, but I had an artifact in the sky. And one of the things you can do is crop. And it sort of went with the painting, but it was cut in half and then made up to be two pieces.
I've noticed that you do that quite often. You offset the matte cut. Why is that?
Cropping, you mean?
Cropping, but also placing them in non-modular layout.
Well, I'm very interested in composition and challenging composition. You know, there's the golden rule and that kind of thing that I adhere to. But I like to offset things and maybe even put the central interest a little bit away so the person has to find it and draw to it. I don't necessarily want a bullseye kind of thing. I like people to search and find, and makes it more intriguing if there's something to explore, which is very much in gallery. When you put a show together, it's nice to have something that you can find. That's why multiple rooms are interesting, because you meander through and find things. And in gardening is to put certain elements of your garden hidden from that first impact and be found. So I follow that kind of in both gardening and in painting. You
used to teach?
Yes. I I'm not a qualified, sort of went to university school or art school. I'm a self-taught painter, which is a misnomer. In all due respect, I learned so much from others. And even when you're teaching and somebody comes in that are fairly naive in the beginning, they bring to you something as well. And I learn from other artists, and I study books a lot and videos now and YouTube. There's so many interesting things available to the artists, tutorial and it was a natural fit. I was doing kind of a duration of time at the Capitol Center in the basement at the Kennedy Gallery, and I was like an artist in residence there. And I've done 2 or 3 of these. That was about a 5-year run, and I did workshops there and stuff to offset my reasons to be there, you know. And so that led to me being known as an instructor. And Keith Campbell, who was the head of the art experience, said to me one day, "Would you like to teach up at the college and at art experience?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm not qualified to do that." But he put me in the book, and the catalog says you're on, you know. So I had to respond. So it went on for 12 years. And then after art experience ended, I got a bunch of senior artists to spend time with me in the summer for a couple of weeks. It's sort of a summer school for seniors, sort of, you know, and that went on for 6 years till COVID come by and set us down on that. But it was very enjoyable because they want to be there, they enjoy being there, and then sharing. And we had people with all kinds of talent levels that everybody learned from.
Well, that's interesting. Is there anything you've learned lately that surprised you, that it took you this long to learn?
Well, that's a very good question, you know. I think it's so innate, like that I probably don't dwell on it and say, oh, gee, this is a great thing. But I think more subject matter might be what I'm exploring now. I feel not rushed because of my age, but a desire to fill as much time as I can with what I have. And there are maybe new subject matters that I want to explore. And I will always stick to probably representational work. I sketch with my camera, so I have a natural thing about using photographs as my work. But it's a starting point. And the paintings take on a life of their own, and sometimes they almost paint themselves, you know, it just takes over naturally, and I just love that. And I say to the students that I'm involved with, it's a wonderful feeling when you're in tune with your piece of work, and it's never hard to do, it's pleasant. And I use an analogy that's sort of it's like dancing with your favorite partner. You don't do the mechanics of the steps. You just do it. Now, not implying I'm a good dancer, but the analogy is that it flows. And when art flows, that's a wonderful time to be on a painting. A commission, on the other hand, can be very tough, because you're doing something for an individual who has a vision of what they want. But they're all been wonderful when I finish the work. But the apprehension of, am I doing this right? Is it pleasing the buyer? You know, is always part of that feeling, you know?
Yeah, the artist's pressure
Yeah,
to please.
yeah, exactly.
It's pin focused on the
Yeah.
customer at that moment.
Yeah. And you know, when you put your work out as an individual or in a group, you are setting yourself up for people might have criticized you and they'll say that's too mundane or too overworked or whatever. If I can achieve an emotional response, that's really matters a lot to me. I want art to please. I'm not involved in trying to paint pandemic things that are too controversial or whatever. I want the goodness and happiness of life to be displayed in my work. A spirit, you know, and a Zen quality too, if you can achieve that, you know. Yeah.
So how old are you now?
I'm 83, just turned. But my
longevity's part of your family tree?
up to a point, I'm in the decade where some of them I've got to, but some of them went earlier than that. But I've been very blessed with relatively good health. You know, there's, as you age, there's issues that you confront, and they start playing a role. But in my mind, I'm the same as I was when I was painting in my 50s, 60s, and 70s. The joy is still there, you know.
Right on. Right on. Anything on your bucket list that you want to do in the next couple of years?
No, just continue to paint, enjoy my family who are growing. My grandchildren are now having babies, and that's a thrill to be a great grandparent. My wife and I relish that role. Yeah.
Right on. Well, I can't think of anything else. We're going to have to constrain it as we always do.
Yeah.
But anything you'd like to share as far as your journey goes?
Well, as long as my health continues, I will continue to paint. There are stories of painters who, at the last part of their life, still sustained an interest, even though they were challenged. It could be visually. Thank God we have good ophthalmology and optometrists now to help us in that regard. It could be arthritic, where your hands no longer can hold the brush. Renoir, the French Impressionist painter, at the end had his brushes tied to his crippled hand so that he could work and paint right till the end. But I enjoy art, even if I couldn't paint, just the joy of looking at other people's work and going out in nature and enjoying, like, you know, the Lauria Woods and that type of thing, you know, is a real benefit. It's a blessing, you know. So I would recommend that people, as they go through their careers, have something where they can share that moment, be it nature or be it a craft or a painting, whatever. Yeah.
You just enjoy as much as you can when you can. Eh?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know? Well, thanks for the interview.
Oh, it's my honor and pleasure. Thank you. Good.
I think that went well.
Thank you.